All right, good people. Welcome to my new podcast. It's called Peeling the Onion, and I'm so glad to have you. Thanks a lot for tuning in. In this podcast, I'm gonna be talking to my favorite artists, mostly musicians to begin with. We'll see where it goes. But I'm just gonna be dissecting their art, their worldview, and kind of peel the onion. My name is Elvar Freyr Elvarsson. I'm an Icelandic music journalist and an artist and a music lover and a lover of all arts. I live in Reykjavik, Iceland, and I do these interviews over the phone or over Zoom, and I present them uncutted, so you'll just get the whole thing as it were. Yeah, that's about it. That's all you need to know. I'm just gonna stop speaking so you can listen to my interview with Greg Norton from Hüsker Dü. As you know, he's a legendary bass player. If you haven't heard Hüsker Dü, you should go out and check out their stuff. It's absolutely amazing, and he's just a great guy, has such great energy. So it was a really nice talk. We had this talk at the end of November. So yeah, that's all you need to know. Check it out. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Hello.
All right. Hey, Greg. This is Elvar here, calling from Iceland.
How are you, Elvar?
I'm very good. How are you, man?
I'm doing well.
Okay. You are located in Red Wing, Minnesota, right?
That is correct.
I was just checking the weather forecast, and we have the exact same weather here today in Iceland.
Well, that's kind of crazy.
I mean, you guys are fairly up north, right? In the States.
We are. We're Minnesota borders Canada, but I'm probably 300 miles south of the border.
Right. And it's a fairly small town, right?
Red Wing is about 15,000 people, so yes.
Okay. You've been living there for a long time, or?
I moved to Red Wing in 1983, so I've been here for 40 years now.
Okay, I see. All right. I see on your Wikipedia page that you were born in Iowa.
Yes, my family actually lived in Rock Island, Illinois, but my mother was Catholic, and the only Catholic hospital was across the river in Davenport, Davenport, Iowa. So I was born in Iowa, but only spent, maybe a day or so there, and then went home to Rock Island.
Okay. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for taking your time. I'm a big fan of your music throughout the years.
Thank you very much.
I guess I thought we'd start with maybe you telling me a little bit about your upbringing, like your family life. Do you have a big family?
I am the youngest of three. My siblings, my sister is 9 years older than I am, and my brother is 4 years older than I am.
Okay.
I was a baby in Rock Island, Illinois. My dad worked he was a traveling salesman, and we ended up in Omaha, Nebraska. Sorry, my dog is flipping out over here. For a few years, and then moved to Minnesota when I was like 4 years old. So basically, lived my whole life in Minnesota.
Okay. So was there a lot of music in the house when you were growing up?
For sure. So, my sister being 9 years older than I am, she grew up in the 60s and listened to a lot of music. I remember actually seeing the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show way back. And then my brother being 4 years older than I was, he was into, Cream and Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and things like that. My dad actually listened to a lot of records. He was a huge Tony Bennett fan and also loved big band music, Stan Kenton and his big band being his favorite. And my mom sang a lot. She liked to sing Patsy Cline songs. So, there's always a lot of music around.
Right on. So, what's the first record or artist you remember that had like a profound effect on you? Do you remember that?
Well, there was a lot of stuff that had profound effects on me, but probably listening to those early Beatle records as they came out. I probably was 13 or 14 when I really started getting into various artists. I was 14 in 1973, and a lot of really great music came out in that year.
Right.
And I also ended up at the age of 14 lying about my age and getting a job working at a movie theater in downtown St. Paul, which is the twin city to Minneapolis, and right across, right next door to the movie theater was a record store called 3 Acre Wood, and would hang out there like whenever I could, and just getting exposed to all sorts of new music. And the two guys that worked at the store were also very much into jazz, so that was my introduction to Miles Davis and John Coltrane and Ornette Coleman and things like that. So
right. So do you remember like the first album that you bought with your own money?
The first album that I bought with my own money was Alice Cooper's $1 Billion Babies.
Nice.
Yep.
All right.
And then the first record I bought from 3 Acre Wood was the triple album live album from Yes called Yes Songs.
Okay, I haven't heard that one.
Yep.
So when did you start playing music?
I got my first bass on my 14th birthday.
Okay. Did your family play music, or your siblings play instruments?
No, none of them actually. My sister took clarinet when she was in high school, but I think everybody takes clarinet in high school. My brother tried to play guitar, but he never really had a knack for it. So I guess I was the first musician in the family.
Did you ask for the bass, or did they just, decide to give you one?
No, I asked for it. I wanted to play the bass.
What was the reason behind that?
I think, I don't know, something about the bass, bass lines really struck me, like growing up listening to those Paul McCartney bass lines, and then discovering the band Yes and Chris Squires playing. I just really liked it. It was something that hit me more than guitar did.
Mm. Okay, so when you started, were you just alone in your bedroom with a bass and an amp, or did you start
Yeah,
playing
pretty
with?
much.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, no, I started off on my own. I did take some lessons from another kid that lived in the neighborhood, who kind of taught me a couple of things, but he wasn't really necessarily a teacher. So, took that. There was another kid in the neighborhood who played classical guitar. He gave me some classical guitar lessons, which I think kind of more helped the bass playing than my guitar playing, just from an approach. And, I wasn't in, Hüsker Dü was my first band. Same with Bob. So not a bad band to start with.
Right. Yeah, I think that's super interesting. It's the first band you ever joined.
Yep. Grant had played. Grant was a very talented multi-instrumentalist, and he had been playing with some other people when we all met. But so Hüsker was Bob's first band and my first band.
And did you guys just start playing gigs right away? You started playing gigs in what, 1979, around that time?
Yes, we played together for the first time at the end of March, but that was, Grant and I were working in a record store, and the manager, basically, we were at a, actually the bar that we ended up playing our first show at. We were just out there, a group of friends having beers. And he came back and told Grant that he said, we need to put a band together because I just got us a gig at this bar. And Grant was like, oh, I know a guy that goes to McAllister who's got a flying beat. He could be the guitar player. And the next day, Grant and I picked Bob up and brought him over to my house where Grant's drums were set up, and the three of us jammed a bunch of Ramones songs. And then it's like, okay, well, Greg can be the bass player. So those first couple of shows were with a fourth member, Charlie Pine, who was he was the manager, and it was all cover songs. We did a wide variety of things. There was we played some Ramones, we played some Velvet Underground, we played Eddie Cochran, we played Nick Lowe and Dave Edmunds Rockpile songs. We did some Elvis Costello. We did just a Buzzcock song, a Perubu song. It's like we had all sorts of stuff, but it was all covers. But that weekend was when Bob, Grant, and myself decided, like, hey, this is fun playing together. Let's keep playing. And then we made the decision that we were going to continue as a three-piece without Charlie. Mm-hmm. And then the record store that I was working at, the owner allowed us to clean out the basement and set up a rehearsal space down there. So we were, every night at 9 o'clock when the store would close, we would go down and just start playing music and writing songs, and that's how Hüsker Dü was born.
Did you guys gel right away? Like when you started jamming, did you feel there was a magic or within, or between the three of you, or how was it?
Oh yeah, no, it was, there was definitely, I don't necessarily say we could call it magic, but it was a lot of fun playing with each other, and everything just seemed to start falling into place. And Grant and Bob all three of us were writing. So, just coming up with stuff and working on things and, just having fun,
Right. Then when's your first single? That's in 79, or?
The Statues single didn't come out until
No, that was
January
later. Yeah.
of 81.
Yeah. Okay, right. That's the first single. And then you guys did the Land Speed record, right?
Yep. Land Speed record was recorded at the end of our first big tour that took us through Canada and the Pacific Northwest, and we ended up meeting Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, and we spent probably close to a month in San Francisco, actually staying at Jello Biafra's house.
Nice.
And trying to play as many shows as we could. We were trying to, get something booked in LA and make it down that way. That's the first time that I had talked to Mike Watt. He was, we would talk on the phone. He was trying to find us gigs, and nothing was happening down there. So we decided to go home, and we booked a show at the 7th Street Entry. And basically that was the end of that tour, and we decided to record it. So
right.
Very raw, very, high energy document of how we had evolved in the 3 months that we were out on the road.
And how did that come about? Because the difference in speed is so astounding. Was that something that you guys talked about, or was it just a lot of speed, or
Well, we liked a lot of bands that played really fast, and then we're like, oh, well, let's play faster than the Ramones, and then we saw the Dickies, and we're like, well, let's play faster than the Dickies, and
okay,
the term hardcore hadn't really been applied as a label quite yet. DOA, the band from Vancouver, they put out a record called Hardcore 81, and I think that's when hardcore was starting to be applied as a label for bands that played loud and fast, and we just kind of embraced that and said, yeah, we can do that too. But we progressed and grew as musicians, and there are plenty of bands out there that are hardcore bands, and that's what they do, and that's what they've stuck with. But we always felt that we were growing as songwriters and musicians, and that there was a lot more to what we wanted to do than just hardcore.
Mm-hmm. So do you look at Land Speed record as your debut album, or?
Well, I guess in a sense, yeah, it was our debut album, but I think the follow-up single, In a Free Land, was really starting to show where the band could go, and then our first full studio album, Everything Falls Apart, I think is really kind of the debut of what the band could be.
Right. So the original reason why I thought of calling you is because a month ago it marked a 40-year anniversary of Metal Circus. So how does that feel? I mean, 40 years, man, goes by fast, right?
It does. It really doesn't feel like it's been 40 years, you know? And I think that's one of the things about Hüsker Dü is the music is stood up through the test of time. You know, it still sounds good. It still sounds, you know, I think it's still a benchmark for a lot of bands, and it's kind of crazy, you know. And I think because of that, I think that's one reason why it doesn't feel like it's been 40 years, you know.
No, definitely, it's timeless, and also like going online, you can see people. Even the singer-songwriter Cat Power, she was listening it alongside her like all-time favorites, alongside, you know, Sticky Fingers and Astral Weeks and Blue and Bob Dylan's Desire, you know. So, you know, like it's still like, yeah. And that's your first record after you landed a contract with SST, which must have been a dream come true, right? Getting that one.
Yeah, you know, we met Black Flag in March of 1981, and we had actually sent them a demo of Land Speed record, and you know, Joe Carducci, who ran the label, didn't feel that would be a good first record for SST, and that's how it ended up coming out on Mike Watt's label, New Alliance. Watt said he didn't even have to hear it; he was just going to put it out. So, you know, so the Land Speed record and the In a Free Land single were both on New Alliance, and then Everything Falls Apart. You know, SST liked it, but they weren't quite ready to sign us yet, so that's why we put that one out ourselves. And then, you know, I think after that came out, they were like, okay, well, we're ready for you guys. Metal Circus was going to be a full album, but due to time constraints with touring and, you know, the amount of studio time we had booked, we just trimmed it down to the EP length to get it out.
Okay.
Then,
so you didn't record the whole 12 songs in that session. You only did the 7 that's on the album. Or?
Oh no, we recorded all 12, but we only finished the 7. So, you know, Standing by the Sea ends up working its way into Zen Arcade. You know, the other songs, you know, didn't see the light of day until the Savage Young Do box set came out, and that was included as a bonus single, the Extra Circus.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a story about the like the cover, like the original Metal Circus cover? Because for me, it's such an enigma in the way it succeeds in being like completely banal, you know, and incredibly haunting at the same time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you tell me a story?
Grant set all of that up. And he did such an amazing job. And, you know, and there are like little things in there that are kind of a nod back to, you know, our previous recordings as well. Like the picture of Mao is, you know, from the Statue single. You know, the airplane NAR 007 was the catalog number for New Alliance for Land Speed record. Exactly how Grant decided to come up with that, I'm not real sure, but it is such a great cover, you know?
It is, actually, yeah. Did he have a hand in all of the covers, or...?
Yes, Grant actually designed all of our record artwork.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the touring schedule in the 9 months between the recording of Metal Circus and Zen Arcade, and like you guys hardly took a day off. There was like a month off in May, and 2 weeks in like June and September. Did you use that time off to write the album, or did it just happen on the road? How did
It basically it happened on the road. We like to tour. We were all young. We we loved to play. So we got out. We were we would pretty much play anywhere that we could find that had a scene or had a club that would want to have us come and play. And we toured constantly. We were writing constantly. A lot of times we would work on a song and sound check at a gig, and if we liked it, we'd put it in the set. We did have some rehearsal time back here in Minnesota, which is kind of where we came up with the whole concept of Zen Arcade, and put it together as, I guess, for lack of a better term, a rock opera.
Yeah, when you talk about the concept, you're talking about the story, right? Yeah, okay. So that was something that you guys came up with together?
Yes.
Just out of the blue, or was it inspired by, anything?
It wasn't necessarily inspired by any true events or anything like that. I mean, some stuff could be looked at as being autobiographical, from our personal experiences, but we didn't drape it as that. We just put the story together, and as we were, would write songs, the story would evolve, and until we, finally got to the studio.
Okay. Was there a conscious effort to make a double album, or was it just the accumulation of good material that worked?
No, we wanted to put out a double album.
Okay.
SST was not real sure about that.
No, I can believe that.
Yep. So, and the funny thing there is the Minutemen, they had a record recorded.
Right.
It was going to be called Nothing to Hide. It was a single album, but when they heard that we had given SST a double, they're like, well, shit, we need to put out a double. So
right.
they scrambled to come up with another album's worth of material, and had friends writing lyrics for them. Like Joe Carducci wrote the lyrics for Jesus and Tequila, and so then they slapped it all together and came up with Double Nickels.
So that is Zen Arcade like the first punk double album, or do you know?
It might be. I'm not real sure, but it could be.
So like, I mean, I dig the idea, but like, you guys just want to show off that you could do it. Was that the reason behind it, or
No, not at all. It's just that the story that we put together, and then deciding, like, here it is. This is our punk rock opera. It is a nod to, like, Quadrophenia and Tommy.
Right.
So at that point, it had to be a double album. Cool. With a gatefold sleeve.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I read that, like, almost the entire album was recorded in one take. Is that true, or?
Yeah, a lot of Hüsker studio stuff was first take, maybe second take, for all the basic tracks. Zen Arcade was recorded at Total Access in Redondo Beach, right in the middle of a tour. We basically had rough mixes done, and then went up and played shows up in San Francisco and Portland and Seattle, and then came back and then mixed.
Mm-hmm.
And tracked more vocals and guitars and stuff like that, and then so yeah, it was economy of time.
Okay, so you
And,
only
and
just
I think that served the record well. I think if we would have had too much studio time, it wouldn't have turned out in the same way.
right. So you didn't do like 5 takes and then always chose the first one. You just did 2 takes and then nothing more, you know. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
But
You know, and we were also playing this material in our live set. You know, and that was with Hüsker Dü. You know, Everything Falls Apart was recorded with Spot at Total Access. You know, Metal Circus, Zen Arcade. They were all recorded in the middle of tours. So, and then we just continued on with this. We ended up being the band that we would release a record and you would go see them live and people would be like, I don't know any of these songs. These aren't on the new the record I just bought. And that's because we were touring the record that we were about to record as opposed to touring the record we just released.
right. And with these first 4 records at least, they were like recorded and then you released them like 6 to 9 months later, you know.
Yep. Yeah.
What was
1985, you know, saw the New Day Rising released at the beginning of the year and Flip Your Wig released, I mean, literally about 9 months later, yeah.
Do you know what was the politics behind that?
No politics. We were just prolific, you know, so...
yeah. Okay.
You know, actually, Warehouse was the first record where we went out and actually toured the record as opposed to touring new material. So,
yeah. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys were very prolific. I mean, it's, 6 studio albums and an EP in 6 years. So that's over 100 songs, like between January 83 and January 87. So that's very prolific, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a sense of urgency, like that the band wouldn't last, or that was just your work ethic?
I would say it was both.
Okay.
It was definitely the work ethic, but I think, you know, in the back of everyone's mind, we also knew that, you know, nothing lasts forever. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, right. Also with the touring, I was going through your schedule from 1980 to 1987, and I found like 1 month break, which was around the time when you recorded Warehouse. Aside from that,
Mm-hmm.
it was almost non-stop. I counted how many breaks you had that lasted more than 4 weeks, you know, roughly, and I got about 10. So you guys... Yeah, you basically lived on the road throughout the 80s. It's pretty astounding to see, you know. So, was that just the norm back then? Were you under some kind of a contract, or you just really liked being out there and playing?
We just really liked being out there and playing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was easier too, you know. There was a lot more support from local scenes. Like if you know, somebody, if you lived somewhere and there was a club and there was a band coming through, everybody went to see it, you know, as opposed to today. Sure, there's thriving scenes all over and there are, you know, scenes within scenes and splintered factions. And you know, the one thing that kind of drives me crazy nowadays is how, like, there'll be a touring band will come through, there'll be some local bands on, and their fans will show up to watch them, and then they leave. They don't stick around to support the other bands on the bill.
Okay.
And, you know, it's just different now. And I think, you know, the internet and instant gratification and all of that all plays into it.
Right.
But, But, definitely in the 80s, it was a very supportive scene no matter where you went. And, I'd love to see that come back where people would go out and just support music and support musicians instead of just supporting their friends.
Yeah, right. I think it's also like back in the days you didn't have as many distractions, like...
That's true. There was no internet.
Yeah.
There was no, streaming services for, people to sit down and binge watch 15 hours of a program. So.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being a kid in Iceland just back in 2000, and there wasn't anything to do. You had one TV station, you had some CDs. So like if there was a concert, you went out and you met people, because you were bored as hell, So
exactly. And that's pretty much what we were doing,
Right.
Exactly that.
I think it differs in countries. Like people in Iceland, they are very lazy going to shows. But if you go to Europe, like Germany, people are more inclined to show up and pay for a gig, so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know. So you
yeah,
guys...
the United States is kind of similar, where people will be like, what do you mean there's a cover charge? I have to pay to get in? It's like, well, yeah, we need to support the band.
Right.
So,
I mean, some bands, they also just tour the lesser-known cities, use that as a business model, try to hit the towns where nothing's happening, yeah.
Yep.
But you guys, you mostly toured the States and then Europe somewhat, right? Back in the day.
Yes.
Did you ever go to other continents?
Hüsker Dü never played Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
I have been to Iceland. I went there actually to see a show. I went to see my friends in the jazz trio, the Bad Plus, play.
Okay.
And I literally spent, I want to say, 30 hours in Reykjavik.
Okay.
Flew in, saw the show, hung out with the band and the people that put the show on, and we afterwards we went out and had a good time bar hopping in Reykjavik, and woke up very hungover and stopped at the Blue Lagoon on the way to the airport, and then flew back to Minneapolis.
Okay. Yeah, you should definitely come back and like do a gig and check out the nature. It's quite beautiful parts of it.
Oh, I would love to. I would absolutely love to come and play Iceland. I'm hoping Ultrabomb will make it there.
Yes, definitely. Like, so playing back in the day, do you have like a favorite city or country, or like, some places that really embraced you? Do you remember that?
England was always really good. Germany was good. Actually, we played some really great shows in Oslo and Copenhagen, Stockholm. I think one of the most memorable gigs was we played a festival in northern Finland.
Okay.
That was really good. That was fun. Stateside, there were definitely some places that we always looked forward to. San Francisco was always good. Austin, Texas. I mean, Austin, and the cities here have changed so much since, the 80s that it's a lot different now, but.
Right.
Yeah.
But did you go up like to the Pacific Midwest, to these places like Seattle and,
Yes, we played Seattle a lot. We played Portland, Oregon a lot. on the East Coast, Boston. There were 5 cities that we would always hit, being Boston, Providence, Rhode Island, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington D.C. Those were always good stops.
Did you book your own shows, or did you have a booking agent who did it for you?
We booked ourselves up until I believe we brought on Frank Riley from Frontier Booking. I want to say right around the time Zen Arcade came out.
Mm.
So then we had somebody booking our shows for us.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you feel like
prior to that, it was, I booked shows, Bob booked shows. I still have notebooks full of random phone numbers of hey, call this guy. He could probably find you a gig in this town, type of thing.
Right. Because I remember hearing Steve Albini talking about that he likes to book it himself so he can play in front of what he calls a sympathetic crowd, instead of just like going on a festival where no one cares about you, and you don't get the energy that you maybe need to execute a good show, I don't know if you guys thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah, not so much. We did get to a point where we wanted, final say over who the opening bands were. So that, and we also like to play with acts that weren't punk bands,
Okay.
We had, Buckwheat Zydeco open for us. We had White Yoakum open for us, we like to show people that, like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff out there, and it's all music.
Mm.
You just need to be open to it.
Cool. I want to ask you about the major label jump that you guys did. That was like in what, 1985 or 6?
86 is when we signed to Warner Brothers.
Was that like a general consensus within the band, or do you remember how that went down?
Yes, we were. When Zen Arcade came out, we were already getting major label interest.
Okay.
But at the time, we didn't, feel that a major label offered us anything more than what we were getting from SST at the time, So we stayed on with SST, ultimately deciding to sign with Warner Brothers after meeting with other labels, as Warners were very artist-oriented. They were very sincere in the fact that they would not mess with our process and that they would allow us, creative control in the studio and not tell us what to do. And that's why we chose Warners.
So you did get a lot of offers from other labels?
Yes, we did. Yep.
Okay.
Some seemed sincere and some seemed like they were just didn't, and that's another thing. Some of the labels, it's like, okay, well, they would have no idea what to do with us. So
you felt like you would
bother?
have more creative control?
Yes.
Do you think it changed your music in some way?
Going to Warner's?
Yeah.
It afforded us more time in the studio. I mean, at this point, we were recording in Minneapolis. The Flip Your Wig, New Day Rising, Flip Your Wig, Candy Apple Gray, and Warehouse were all recorded in the same studio with the same engineer. And it was in, Minneapolis, close to where Bob and Grant both lived. So they had more time in the studio, and I think sometimes it, it's sort of like I was saying with Zen Arcade that, we didn't have extra time, so there wasn't any tinkering with things. I think with the Warner's records, there was an opportunity for Bob and Grant to tinker with the production. And I think sometimes it worked and sometimes, worked to the benefit of the music. And I think sometimes it's like, I kind of liked what we had before you did that to it, but it's the nature of creativity, I guess.
So there was no talk about getting spot on just to keep on producing the albums?
Bob and, after New Day Rising, Bob and Grant decided that we didn't really need Spot as a producer. That, they were capable of doing the production themselves. The third Warner Brothers album, actually Warner's wanted to bring in an outside producer for the band. And personally, I was ready for that. I think, Hüsker needed a fresh set of ears to look at the material or hear the material. But that album never got recorded. So we were slated to go into the studio in February of '88 to record the third record for Warner Brothers, and of course that never happened.
Right. But that was Bob's decision to pull the plug on the band. Is that right?
Well, I mean, depending on whose story you want to believe, Grant always claimed that he quit the band in December of '87, and but technically Bob was the one that filed, an actual letter with Warner Brothers removing himself from the contract in early '88. So,
okay. How did you feel about that? Like, do you think you guys could have gone on and made more classic albums? I know it's maybe a moot point to, speculate on it, but like, did you want to? Did you want to go on?
I think we could have, but I guess at that point it had kind of gotten to a point where it stopped being fun, and that was one thing that we always said is that we would keep doing this as long as it was fun. And, that's the one big drawback to being on a major label is they're a business, and then you have to run your band as a business, and then it ends up being a job, and, it kind of takes away from where you start out from.
And did you
Some people handle it great.
And did you feel like that shifted a lot when you went to major with like a lot of lawyers coming in and people trying to dictate how you did things and so forth?
Yeah, it was kind of gradual, though. It was, things slowly start being removed from your daily to-do list. It's like, well, let's have somebody else do that so you have more time to be the artist type of thing, where it's like, okay, but that is part of what we were. That was us being the artists, running our own shop, our own show. It's like you start to have fewer responsibilities, and then you end up having more time, but at the same time, you have less time because there's more demand for your time for things like interviews and in-stores and radio IDs and all of this stuff. And so it changes. So I think that was one of the hardest things for Grant to accept. And I think that was one reason that kind of led him down the path he ended up, deciding to take, because I think he was bored.
Right. But you guys, you were kind of at the top of your popularity when you broke up, wouldn't you say? Like you were getting recognized more in Europe and
Definitely. At the time, it's like REM was kind of like on the ladder rung above us, and we were right behind them. So, I think Hüsker could have definitely gone on to much bigger things. It's also, you look back and it's also, timing is, as they say, everything. And we kind of broke up right before the major label punk explosion. So.
Right. Yeah. Were you the first underground band to get signed to a major?
The Replacements actually signed to Sire Records right before we did.
Okay.
But we were definitely the first hardcore band to make that jump. Although at that point we weren't necessarily a hardcore band anymore.
Right. Did that happen gradually because you guys got more melodic, as time went by? Was that just you guys growing, and getting older, or what?
Yeah, it was us growing and, evolving.
You never had band meetings?
The band always had those pop elements. We wanted to be a pop band, but we played punk, so.
And you're talked about the punk band that plays Beatles melodies, and and in a lot of way that's true,
Yes, I would agree with that.
I also think that maybe it kind of preserves your legacy that you guys kind of quit at the peak of your career. You know what I mean? In a way, it makes you more legendary, maybe, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. We went out with a bang instead of a fizzle. So.
Okay, so after the band disbands, you formed the band Grey Area, and that disbanded what in '91?
That's correct. Our guitar player decided he didn't want to be a guitar player anymore. The drummer and I were like, well, it's kind of hard to be a rock trio without a guitar player, and that was the end of Grey Area, and that's when I got into the restaurant business and learned how to cook, and basically I was out of music for 14 or 15 years before I actually picked up a bass again and rediscovered that that's who I am and that's what I need to do.
So what prompted you to get into the restaurant business?
I have a very good friend who is one of the top chefs in the Twin Cities, and he taught me how to cook. He was my mentor. He, from that I ended up, running kitchens on my own, becoming a chef, general manager, and then ultimately owning my own restaurant. And, I got out of the restaurant biz in 2010, which actually was a good time to get out. So,
in what way?
Well, the restaurant business is a very hard business to begin with. Your profit margins are razor thin. I enjoyed doing the restaurants, but the things I miss about being in a restaurant are the friendships and kinships that you have with your coworkers, the friendships that you develop with your regular customers. I don't miss the 14-hour days of standing on a line and burning all the hair off my arms and things like that.
Right. I remember this great quote from you, though, where you compared being a chef to being in a band where you don't know the set list you're playing for the night. I don't know. That always struck me,
Yep. And it's true. The similarities are there. The hours are very similar. Like I said, when you get your mise en place together, that's like your sound check, and then your menus, your set list, and you don't know what songs you're going to play that night or how many times you'll have to play the same one in a row, and there's probably a little bit more choreography involved with working on a line, and then you get done, and it's like after a show, and you go out and talk to people and have people tell you like, well, that was crap or that was great. You get that feedback right away too. So.
Right. And you didn't pick up a bass in 15 years or what?
Yeah. I think it was 14 years I went without even picking up a bass, and that's when I met Dave King, the drummer from the Bad Plus. And he kind of, talked me into joining, starting a band with him. And that's the band that ended up being Gang Font.
Right, okay. The Gang Font Feet Interloper, is that the correct way? Or am I
Yeah, featuring Interloper, which, then, we ended up dropping that because we realized that people thought that meant we had a DJ on the record, but so I always felt I was the interloper. So, but so now we're Gang Font is technically we've never broken up, and we may actually even get out and play some shows in 2024. We've got a second album that we recorded in 2010 that I'm hoping that also in 2024 we'll finally get that released.
All right.
But yeah, I like Gang Font is a really fun band to play with, and all of the musicians are just amazing, top notch. Dave King is one of the top jazz drummers in the world. And I'm lucky that I get to play with them.
Is that your first band or only band where you're playing in odd time signatures? Or have you done that?
Yeah, probably. Yep.
Okay, so you picked that up quite easily.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you also played with the Minneapolis band Porcupine?
I did. Yep. I was with Porcupine for about 5 years, and we released one EP with me on it. And Porcupine is still together, but the guitarist Casey just decided that he wanted to kind of change things up, and so now they're a 4-piece. He replaced myself and the drummer with 2 new people and brought in a second guitar player, and that was fun. Porcupine was fun. Casey writes good songs, but it just ended up not being the best fit for me. So that kind of led to that transition, but that opened the door for Ultrabomb.
Right. And you released a debut album last year, which is just fucking amazing. It's really good album. Fresh,
Thank you.
Can you tell us about how the band and the album came together?
Yeah, this is the miracle of the internet. So, Penny McConnell from the Mahones, he and I had been Facebook friends since like 2015, and when he saw that Porcupine had the lineup change, he reached out and said, "Hey, let's start a band with my mate Jamie Oliver. He's the drummer in the UK Subs."
Quite the lineup.
And originally we were thinking like, okay, we'll get together, we'll do some Hüsker Dü covers, some Mahones covers, throw in some UK Subs, and we'll just get together and play for a laugh. And about a month after that, Finney was like, "I'm going to be in Berlin. I've got some studio time booked. Jamie's going to be here at the same time." And I'm like, I should go to Berlin and meet these guys just to see if this is actually like a thing or not. And so I booked a flight to Berlin. The first time I'd ever been to Berlin, actually, and I was there for 4 days. And it was the first time I'd actually met Finney and Jamie, like, face to face.
All right.
And we literally wrote the record, and we wrote all 10 songs in the first 2 days. And the third day, I told Finney, it's like, well, I've got a bunch of lyrics. So I brought out, printed off these lyrics from my phone, and I was doing some bass overdubs. And then I came back in, and Finney's like, I've got the entire record figured out. He had it all laid out. And on the last day, he went in and sang all of the songs, my lyrics to the music that we wrote. And it turned out amazing. And I couldn't be happier with the record. I think it's
really
like
good.
You said, it's fresh. Yep. Thank you.
Have you ever written and recorded an album in that short of a time span? Like, so you wrote it and recorded it in how many days, you said?
We wrote all 10 songs in 2 days. We did 4 songs the first day, the other 6 the second day. And pretty much it was like, Finney'd be like, okay, here's a riff, and he'd play it. And Jamie and I would be like, okay, and then I'd play a part. And the three of us would hammer it, the arrangement together. And once we were happy with it, we're like, okay, well, let's record this one. And then we'd have the engineer record it. And as long as Jamie was happy with the drum part, we moved on. And Hansi, the engineer, kept saying, like, I can't believe that you guys just wrote that. And we're like, yeah, no, we're writing all of these in front of you. We wrote all 10 songs on the spot. And it's crazy. He was like, yeah, it sounds like you guys have been playing together for years. And we're like, nope, we just all met. First time in the studio, here we are. And the other thing he said that I thought was really funny, he said, yeah, Finney, when he booked the studio, said that you were a punk band, but you're much better than that. And I'm like, oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, you just met the guys, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You've never written and recorded an album in that short of a time span, right? Even with the Hüskers.
That's correct.
Yeah, wow. So it's
Yep.
It's 34 minutes of music, 10 original songs, and then you threw in sonic reducer for good measure.
After the second night, we were talking about recording, like doing a cover of something, and I suggested Sonic Reducer, and both those guys were like, "Oh, for sure, I love that song." And actually, Finney and I learned the song on that last day because we still had some time left. Jamie's the only one that had actually ever played it with anyone, and so we knocked it out. I went in and sang it, and that, I believe, was like the first vocal take too. So
nice. So you wrote all of the lyrics for the album?
Correct.
is that the first time you write lyrics for bands that you play in, or have you done that before?
Well, I mean, I've wrote songs for Hüsker Dü. I wrote songs for Gray Area.
Lyrics-wise also?
Yes,
okay.
Lyrics as well, yeah.
Okay.
And the plan coming up for this tour, we have studio time booked in London, and we're going to record the second album. And we've got 15 sets of lyrics to work with that we're kind of hoping to have a little bit of a head start on this one. But Finney has the lyrics. He's working on riffs, and we'll hopefully out of those 15, we'll have 10 that are great, and that'll be the next Ultrabomb album. That's a label here in the United States called DC Jam is going to release it for us, and we're hoping to have it wrapped up before the end of December, and be looking at a spring release then, probably April time.
Awesome. And you're gonna try doing that in 3 days, that album, or what?
Well, we'll have 4 days in the studio, but we'll also have some more time in between shows with the Barstool Preachers where we can work on it. So,
okay.
Hopefully we'll have it all wrapped up.
Cool. Do you have any special inspiration when you write lyrics, or like how do you
not
work?
Really. I mean, sometimes I'll just hear somebody say something, and it's like, will stick with me, and then that ends up turning into something. I don't know.
Okay. So do you have a do you do it without a melody, or do you have a melody in mind when you write lyrics?
Generally, I've got some sort of melody or rhythm in my head when I'm writing something.
Okay.
But I think that's the fascinating thing about this is, Finney doesn't know what the melody or the rhythm was, and he just gets the lyrics and makes it work with what he's come up with. So I think it's really kind of cool.
Do you do other kinds of writing? Like, could we expect a book of poetry or prose or any of that sort from you?
Well, actually, I guess a lot of the stuff I write is short and kind of more like a poem. Sometimes those end up working into a song. But I don't have any plans to put anything like that out, but maybe I'll think about it.
All right. So you have an upcoming tour now in December in the UK.
Yes.
A few dates in Germany, right? And
yep.
Yeah.
2 shows in Germany and then 1 show in Haarlem in the Netherlands.
Okay.
So Berlin and Cologne, Germany, and then after the Haarlem date, we'll join back up with the Barstool Preachers in Scotland.
Okay. Do you have some more gigs lined up next year then?
Yes. We're hoping to do at least a couple of tours in the U.S. and we'll probably definitely some European dates next summer. So yeah, we're hoping to be on the road quite a bit next year. Probably won't be like the early days of Hüsker, but definitely hoping to get out and play a lot.
I mean, I can imagine that going out on tour now has become somewhat changed since becoming a father, right? So a whole different.
Yeah, it's it's different, but it's I think one of those things that I don't want to be out on the road for 3 months at a time, but this tour in I'll be in England for basically the whole month of December. So I don't think I want to do anything much longer than that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you how your health is? Because you had to cancel your UK tour last year.
Right. I had prostate cancer. Got
Right.
diagnosed with prostate cancer. I was lucky because it was one of those things that just popped up on a routine blood test, and actually had my prostate removed, and I'm fine. I'm actually feel like I'm in the best health I've been in a long time. So.
Okay, that's great, man. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I want to top this off. You guys have a new, or Hüsker Dü that is, have a new live album coming out now in April. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so actually it came out last April.
Was it last April? Okay.
Yep. So it is a set of recordings from our first, some of our very first gigs at a legendary punk bar in Minneapolis called the Longhorn. I guess you could say it was like, the Minneapolis's CBGBs. And, it's our very first set that we ever played that got recorded, and then it kind of skips forward a year. But the sound quality, it sounds amazing, and the energy is fantastic. And, when you listen to something, that got, I think it sounds as good as a lot of those really early punk records from the late 70s. And, it kind of shows the band as like, okay, here's a bunch of kids just playing for fun, and then you skip forward a year and you're like, holy crap, these guys have really evolved in leaps and bounds. And I think it's just a really fun record.
I agree. I mean, they're 43 and 44-year-old recordings, and they just sound great. I was amazed when I heard it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it turned out fantastic.
Are there a lot of live recordings in the vault that we could expect?
Yeah, there are. There are quite a few actually. Terry Katzman, who was our sound man in the early days, recorded pretty much every show that we played. And then Lou Giordano, who was, our sound man later on, he also did board tapes. So there are a lot of live tapes that have, maybe someday we'll see the light of day, or we'll figure out how to, maybe stream them or something so people can hear them. But yeah, there's a lot of material.
So who has a hand in the decision making of which ones are released?
Well, it's a group consensus between Bob and myself and Grant Hart's widow, Bridget. But mostly, Bob and myself are the ones that would have the final say.
Okay. I remember there were rumors on a possible reunion, and I can imagine that Grant Hart's passing put those speculations off the table.
Yeah, and I just want to say it was probably nothing more than rumors. There was never a serious talk of the three of us ever getting back together.
Okay. Were you guys staying in touch?
I mean, if I ever had an opportunity to join Bob on a stage, I would be happy to. But Bob has got his own thing going on, and I have my own thing going on.
Right. But were you and Grant staying in touch? Were you able to see him before he passed?
Yes, actually, I had saw Grant a few times that summer before he passed. It was quite a shock when he did. He had liver cancer, but the prognosis was, nothing imminent. So when he passed in September, it was quite a shock.
Right. Well, I really appreciate you taking your time to chat with me, and can't wait to hear the new album. I hope the volcano is not gonna, disrupt your flight, that you're gonna get there, to London.
Yep. Well, yeah, Friday night, I think about midnight local time in Iceland, I'll be landing at Keflavik, so.
Okay. They just evacuated the town next to the airport, like a 5,000 population town, just completely evacuated.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
Yeah.
Is that the one where the fissure opened up in the middle of the town?
Yeah, right through the town.
Yep. Yeah, I have been following.
Yeah, it's not the best place to build a community, I think, but there you go.
Yep.
But I really do appreciate you. I mean, your music has really helped me through good times and bad times, and just all the best to you, Greg.
Well, thank you, Elvar.
Take care, man.
And I hope to see you in Reykjavik someday. Soon.
Yes, definitely. If you come here, give me a call. I'll hook you up with great Indian restaurant here, and we have a cool art cinema and a lot of stuff. So definitely.
That's great.
All the best,
I think
brother.
I will pass on the fermented shark and probably skip the bread event.
You should try some of it, because some of it is not that bad. Actually, I grew up eating.
Oh, the one I tasted was, I wouldn't say that it wasn't that bad.
Do you mean the fermented shark?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I grew up eating rice pudding with ram's testicles. That's how I grew up on the east of Iceland, So I'm half of a savage, So we'll see. We'll see. We'll keep it open.
Okay.
Cool,
right.
man.
Good. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Good luck. Good luck on everything. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to my talk with Greg Norton, an absolute gem of a person, as you can hear. And as I said, it was a real honor to talk to the guy. I hope you tune in next time, because I'm going to be talking to the legendary Henry Rollins from Black Flag Rollins Band, and now he's a public speaker, spoken word artist, he calls it. He's also a writer, and he has a weekly radio show every Saturday. So please tune in next time to Peeling the Onion, and thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Elvar. All the best. Take care of each other. Bye bye.